What's up, airplane collectors? Welcome to a model airplane review. It's your host Ray. In today's video, I'll be reviewing the Gemini Jet's 1-400 scale Alaska Airlines Boeing 737 MAX-9 in the West Coast Wonders livery. This video is being made at the request of one of my subscribers. If you see a model in my collection that I haven't reviewed and you'd like me to review it, by all means comment that down below in the comment section and I'll get that review started for you shortly. I will have to pause this service for about a week or two coming up soon because I have a surgery coming up that will render me unable to narrate videos for some time, so just giving you the heads up there. In this video, I'll talk about the box, then the model itself, and at the end of the video, I will give my personal opinion about what I think of the model and whether or not I recommend it to other collectors. That being said, let's get this started. The box is the standard issue Gemini Jets box at 15 centimeters lengthwise and height-wise, and about 4.5 centimeters wide. I'll show you around the box now, so here's the front, bottom, right side, top, left side, and here's the back side. Take a moment to read this if you'd like to. This box features a flap that allows the collector to see the model in the box. Under this flap is a bit of information about the 737 MAX family and information about this aircraft. Take a moment to read this if you'd like to, and sorry if the quality is bad, I just can't zoom in any further. Once you open up the box, you get the model fully painted, assembled, and ready to go. Before I begin my review, I'm going to give you a quick 360 of the model. So the fuselage length for this model is 10.5 centimeters, wingspan is 9 centimeters, and it's about 3.5 centimeters tall from the ground to the top of the vertical stabilizer, accurate to 1-400 scale, and relatively small compared to most things. This model is also quite heavy for its size because it's made primarily out of die-cast metal. Starting the review up at the front of the fuselage, here we can see the nose section of the airplane. Nose shape looks pretty good. Historically, Gemini Jets has done a good job in the nose shape with their 737 MAX molds, both for the MAX-8 and MAX-9, and that seems to apply here as well, so nose shape looks good. Printed detail and painted detail also looks pretty solid. Here we can see the Boeing title and the Proudly All Boeing, which I can barely read, but given its size, it's very impressive that I can still read it, so that's very nice. And yeah, moving down the fuselage, we have a bit more details. There's the giant Alaska title. And as we move down the fuselage, here is where things get interesting with the livery. Here we can see the orca whales. And yes, they did name this livery West Coast Wonders, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. There's the registration, and here we are at the rear of the plane. If you noticed, as I moved down in the reflection of the fuselage, you can see that the fuselage is a little bit textured. I'm not really used to seeing that, not really that big of an issue, but it's definitely kind of odd. I've never quite seen it fuselage textured to such a degree like this, so very hard to notice, but it is something unusual that I did notice. And here's the vertical stabilizer. Vertical stabilizer looks pretty good. The whale here also looks pretty nice, kind of reminds me of a Frontier tail. Only complaint or issue that I have is the top part of the vertical stabilizer. It's kind of at an angle when it should be straight relative to the fuselage. Kind of hard to see, but yeah, you can definitely see that the front end is a little bit lower than the back end, so that's just a little bit of an imperfection there. I'll show you the right side of the fuselage. Everything that I said about the left side of the fuselage can also apply to the right side, so I won't provide much commentary here other than that it looks pretty solid too. No complaints so far, other than the texturing, obviously. Moving up to the wings, here's the top of the left wing. The wings have a great set of painted, printed, and molded detail. In the form of the molded detail, you can see the very clearly defined control surfaces, which looks awesome. The printed detail you can see is pretty good as well. There's only a small issue here with the printed detail, a small inconsistency there, but everything else looks pretty solid. Everything seems to align pretty well. And the painted detail we can see in the reflective paint on the leading edge slats. These look pretty good. Overall, no complaints so far. Gemini has usually been pretty solid with their 737 MAX releases, and this 737 MAX seems to follow that trend. Bottom of the wing, there's no printed detail, but it still looks pretty decent nonetheless. And as for the wingtips are pretty nice with the split scimitars. I don't notice any issues, really. Well, okay, maybe I do see a little bit of an inconsistency with the printing there. Yeah. Looks pretty good. Shape looks really nice. This is the one on the left side. Here's what the inside looks like for the one on the right side. Yeah, one on the right side looks pretty good as well. So very nice job on the wings. I'm surprised I haven't found any issues yet. Here's what the bottom of the split scimitars look like, by the way. I didn't really do a good job of showing that earlier. Moving to the rear section of the airplane here, we can see the horizontal stabilizers. These look pretty good. There's not that much detail to put on there, so as a result, they're not really detailed, but that's still not really that big of an issue. It's a small complaint there. Well, not even a complaint, because, yeah, there's not that much detail to put on there. You get the message. Anyway, moving to the bottom here, everything seems to align pretty well, actually. Wow, this is definitely a pleasant surprise. Down here, everything looks good. You can see the APU access doors, and the APU itself, it's just a metallic silver color, which looks pretty solid, so no complaints so far here either. Moving on to the engines, here's the left here's the left engine. I've been making too many space shuttle videos, I'm already referring to these as main engines. Anywho, engines look pretty solid. However, this is an area with this model that had a lot of quality control problems, namely in the fact that a lot of the engines were tilted upwards. This has been a trend for Gemini 737 MAX models recently. And even on some, there were indentations at the bottom or on the sides of the engines, which was really kind of odd to see. Oh, and you can see one on this model. I've never seen this. So you can see in the glare here, there seems to be an indentation or an inconsistency in the way that the shape is. Yeah, you can see it right there. The glint there should be continuous like that, but instead there is a little bit of an issue there. Very small, but something that I still noticed. So yeah. Engines weren't perfect on this batch of models, but on this example, they seem to be fine. On the right engine here, you can see it's ever so slightly tilted up, and you can also see that little bit of texturing on the outside of the engine too. Very interesting. Aside from that, everything looks pretty good. Printed detail is very nice. Exhausts look really nice, especially with the chevrons. Gemini still does a good job on those. And here's the bottom of the engine. Looks pretty solid as well. Moving on to aerial features, this model features 2 antennas and 1 sat dome, all of which are at the top of the aircraft. The 2 antennas are this main antenna at the center of the fuselage and this small antenna at the rear section. I've seen broken antennas with this batch. They're not very common, but it actually happened to this model, and I never noticed it until almost a year later. First, it's pretty tilted, and I thought something was off about that, and then I realized I could just spin it like that, so I'm going to have to re-glue that in place because it is pretty loose, as you can tell. So yeah, antenna quality control wasn't the best, is what I can infer there. Sat dome looks okay. It seems to be molded pretty well. It kind of does fit loosely with the aircraft, so there's large gaps between the sat dome and the fuselage. However, it is aligned with the center of the fuselage mostly, so it looks okay. And yeah, this last antenna here looks pretty good as well. Here's the bottom of the aircraft. I'm going to start talking about the bottom section, and there goes my dog barking, great. Here's the bottom section of the aircraft, and we're going to talk about the landing gear. Landing gear on this plane looks pretty good. Here's the main landing gear. The wheels are supposed to roll, however, on all of them, some of the wheels didn't roll, some of them were stiff, some of them were just glued in place almost. So yeah, it's a hit or miss with Gemini's wheels rolling. Nose gear was also a place where quality control suffered. I noticed a lot of bent nose gears, a lot of issues with the wheels attaching. So yeah, oh, you can see on mine that the wheel's a little bit bent too. It does roll smoothly, but yeah, the gear itself is a little bent. So yeah, quality control with the shapes of these wasn't the best, but still the gears are nicely detailed nonetheless. Just, yeah, it's the quality control that really messes with these. Alright, so here's a view at the front of the airplane. Here we can observe wing flex, engine clearance, all that fun stuff. Wing flex looks pretty good. Also notice how the model's moving a little bit. It's because I'm holding this down on the box, and the box isn't perfectly straight, so I'm just holding it with my finger, and it just moves a little bit, so apologies for that. Yeah, wing flex looks okay. Cockpit window printing looks surprisingly symmetrical for the most part. It might be a little bit angled to the right side of the aircraft or the left side of your screen, but still, it's pretty much impossible to tell because I can barely see it. Horizontal stabilizers in the back, they look to be bent a little bit high, but still within acceptable margins, so I won't complain too much. Gear balance looks decent. You can see some of the wheels don't hit the ground, and engine clearance looks pretty good. Alright, well that concludes my review. Now it's time for my personal opinion recommendation. Normally, given the issues that I found, or rather the lack of issues that I found, since there weren't as many issues on this model, I'd say this model is pretty solid. However, I did actually own 2 of these at one point. I recently sold one at an airplane convention, and that one also had similar quality control issues, but it was still pretty good too. However, I have seen a lot of these come out with some pretty concerning issues, like I told you earlier, like engine issues, bent up engines, gears not rolling, gears being broken, antennas being broken, like on this one. So yeah, like I always say with Gemini jets, their quality control, it's a hit or miss, and if you order online, you're taking a calculated risk there. So I like this model. It's pretty solid, but it's pretty spotty with the quality control. So here's my recommendation. Yeah, I recommend this model. It's solid. The livery is very nice. Printed detail looks pretty solid as well. So I do have to give Gemini credit for that. But as always, be careful, proceed with caution. And yeah, if you do order one online, which is probably going to be your best bet nowadays, given this model is going to sell out pretty soon, if it hasn't sold out already, yeah, that's your best bet online. And just proceed with caution and know that you're taking a risk with quality control there. Well, that's all I've got for you guys today. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys like this review. Stay tuned for more aerospace content. I have a few spaceship videos coming as well, like I mentioned earlier. And yeah, that's all I've got for you guys today. Like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos. Take care of yourselves. See you later.